Hello everyone and welcome back to this humble abode of gameplay and memes. Today I return to you with yet another Supreme Commander Forged Alliance Forever replay cast. Yes, this is going to be my epic comeback for who knows which time. I've got some news and updates before we start. So the news and updates are concerning the color coding of Forged Alliance Forever, because some people have pointed out that I've been using Guile's color coding so far, which some people have pointed out that there is a lot of opportunity to add your own unique flavor and style to the casts if I were to be using my own that I made up myself. So today I'm going to do exactly that and try out some new colors, or color names I should say, for all of you to enjoy. With that out of the way, without further ado, let us proceed to introducing our players. Starting, of course, as per usual, with Team 1. In the red corner, starting from the air position, this time, we're going to be looking at White Owl at 1400 ring points, playing Seraphim in Road Rage Red, going first land, but no doubt we'll be going air really soon because this is... well, at least I feel like this is the appropriate position because look at how they are stationed in comparison to everyone else. Moving towards the southwest, we've got ourselves Nikerochek at 1600 ring points, playing Aeon. In color confusion, Cyan going first to land, and then for a few power generators next to the mass extractors in order to reduce their power consumption as they are upgrading, of course, as you do. Further along to the east, we've got ourselves Tron at 2000 rank points, playing Cybran in wet concrete gray, going first to land just as well, as I'm pretty sure everyone else will do. Further still, overlooking with a nice lake view in the far north, we've got ourselves Abandoned, playing Seraphim, once again at 1200 rank points, wearing the Winter Wipeout white, going first to land. And last but not least, for this particular team, we've got ourselves alegnagyobbkiraj, going first to land, playing Aeon at 1900 rank points, wearing the blues blue color, which is what I'm calling that one, because when I look at this color, blue, I feel blue, so here you go. That's the reason. And now, not to skip over our fabulous Team 2, over here in the green corner. Starting once again from the corner position, we've got ourselves Amygdala at 1400 rank points, just like their direct opponent on the opposite side of the world. Also playing Seraphim, also going first land, but wearing the emerald green instead of, which does add a nice contrast to the opposing red. On the northeastern position, on the frontal right flank, I maybe should call it, we've got ourselves Spectre Slave 137, yet another Seraphim representative at 1500 rank points, going first land, wearing rusty railing orange. Yes. The other orange I'm calling fresh and fragrant orange, so naturally I had to pick an alliteration for this one, and this one is going to be rusty railing orange. Moving further towards the southwest, we've got ourselves Limesy Not So OP, playing Cybran in a very appropriate lime green, going first land and also constructing power generators next to the mass extractors. I think this is one of the signs you can tell where the high skill players are, because or higher rank players, because they always try to surround their first mass extractors with power generators in order to make early upgrading of them a little bit easier. Further still, on the far south, we've got ourselves H-Master at 1400 rank points, playing UEF in Life Given Yellow, going first land, because life gives you lemons, and that is exactly what this color is. And last but not least, for Team 2 and for this particular game, we have got ourselves Wi-Fi at 1900 rank points, playing UEF in Shrinking Violet, going first land and then, unlike everybody else, going for 3 mass extractors before no doubt rushing a Hydro. I think this is the only player on the map who is going for a legit Hydro rush. Well, to be fair, not everybody on this map does have access to Hydro. For example, you can see here Tron and Nikerochek don't, so gotta deal with what you're given. Although you can see that Alenia on the opposite side of the world isn't actually going for a Hydro rush, but instead seems to be going for some kind of a mixture or a mix-up. But anyway, also surrounding the mass extractor with generators, so that's a good tip, you know. It doesn't reduce the consumption too much because, you know, mass extractors don't consume too much energy when they're just working, you know, idle. But when they're upgrading, the cost reduction could be quite significant. And then, you know, you will reclaim, of course, the Tech 1 power generators in order to get yourself back into the economy game by capping the mass extractors with mass storage, of course. Struggle there for a second to remember what those things are called. Anyway, I would like to see now if we are seeing any fast bombers or anything like that from our teams. It looks like Wi-Fi isn't quite planning on that. Instead of opting for, well, never mind, there's going 3rd air, 2nd air from H-Master, but no planes as of yet. In the meantime, already a scout going out from White Owl, trying to see what's up and what's down. No doubt will be eventually followed up by a bomber, but opts for an interceptor first. I guess he feels like it's a little bit too late for a bomber timing, so maybe he has reconsidered. Scouts flying every which way, interceptors failing to catch them, as you do in the early game. The first bomber out from Limesy, of course one of the highest ranked players in the game, always tries to do something fancy with those bombers. That is, you know, standard issue for those high ranked games, I would say. Which this game, as you can see right now, was pretty high ranked, with the lowest players sitting at 1400. Okay, this bomber is not going to accomplish anything though, as it's already getting chased down by interceptors. There you go. Nice and easy cleanup. Unfortunate, but they have failed. Some engineers being airdropped on a plateau by who's this? Yes, this is Amygdala. The engineers do manage to land before the transport is shut down, so very nicely done. And in the meantime, I completely forgot to talk about the map. So the map is called, well, it isn't called anything really, because it's a map created by a random map generator. Yes, or as I should say, Neroxis Map Generator. This map looks like a 15 by 15 because, you know, you can see those blank spaces around the map itself. And yes, it is a pretty nice generation with a lake in the middle. Whoever controls this lake should have access to quite a lot of stuff to bombard on the shores and around them. So I'm sure there is going to be some naval action, even if some players would have preferred to avoid that. We've got our first major engagements on both the left and right hand side. On the western flank, we've got ourselves White Owl and Tron pushing against Wi-Fi, who is currently alone, which, yes, this kind of makes sense because, you know, Wi-Fi, yeah, it's the access to the western parts for the far north and far south players is kind of restricted because, you know, they've got those two very small channels to go through. It looks like Wi-Fi is fine for now. He's still claiming all of the territory. He's still boosting his economy, which is exactly what you need to do in the early game. Claiming all the mass extractors, no doubt has, yeah, absolutely no shortage of mass. In fact, he's about to overflow mass. He just doesn't know what to do with so much. Interceptors out from H-Master coming out en masse to assist Wi-Fi's commander. They'll just be following it around everywhere. In the meantime, both H-Master and Limesy from Team 2 are going for Navy, and H-Master has already completed a Tech 2 naval headquarters upgraded. What was it now? Like 7 minutes into the game. Holy cannoli. that was an extremely fast Tech 2 Navy. Somehow he's still overflowing mass though. It is really confusing. However, they are about to be met with a nasty surprise as Abandon is sending swarms of the Seraphim, ever annoying, ever present hover artillery. Of course, frigates are very adept at shutting those down, but they've got their own problems to deal with, as frigates are being also sent from Tron, who is also advancing into the naval game, currently just producing Tech 1 units, no signs of Tech 2 being queued up yet. which might come back to bite him, because, you know, if a destroyer comes out, that could sink a whole bunch of frigates before it goes down. And I am sure Team 1 won't enjoy that. First upgrades having been completed on both sides. Spectre Slave has finished Tech 2. Meanwhile, Alenia has finished the Aeon double gun. Currently not too many kills, but already almost vet rank 1. Must have killed something extremely valuable from the opposite team. Abandoned follows suit with his own gun upgrade. On the other side of the world, we've currently got, yes, Wi-Fi is working on nano repair. Because, you know, his commander is going to take quite a battering here from 3 opposing commanders now. Yes, Tron, White Owl, and Nikerochek are all in the area. So whenever he goes to engage, he needs to make sure that his commander is exceptionally powerful to actually face all of these. For some reason, Nikerochek is producing a whole bunch of flares. Tech 1 light assault bots. I'm not entirely sure what that is all about. I feel like it's probably because he wants to waste the damage of Wi-Fi. Every time Wi-Fi with his upgraded gun shoots a flare, that is a massive waste of damage, so maybe that is his plan. But you gotta keep in mind that, yes, Aeon will have some serious struggles, especially against UEF, because UEF bombers can kill those Aurora tanks in one pass. Those tanks are just so squishy that, yeah, it's kind of highly unfortunate for them. It should be noted that Tech 2 land has also been reached by both sides at this point. Both, yes, Alenia as well as Wi-Fi already working with Tech 2 land. Tech 2 engineers deploying some turrets near the commander of Wi-Fi. They might be slightly misplaced, however, as the incursion seems to be happening a little bit further to the west. However, there are now mongoose on the case. Sorry, there is one mongoose and one pillar. Mongoose are pretty good against auroras because, you know, I'm pretty sure mongoose outrange auroras, right? I could be wrong on that one because I actually have no idea. Range 0 to 34. Meanwhile, aurora tanks are working with 0 to 26, yes, so monkeys actually massively outrange auroras, which means, yes, Nikerochek needs to be careful to not just throw all of his spam away against like 3 opposing monkeys. That would be extremely unfortunate. The forward positions of White Owl are already being shot to pieces by triads. I'm actually not entirely sure why White Owl is going for this forward play at all, considering, you know, his direct counterpart on the opposite side of the world, Amygdala, is just working only on air, and as a matter of fact has already completed Tech 3 air. If we look at White Owl, we can see that, well, yes, he is also working on a power generator, so somehow, despite, you know, splitting the APM between moving your commander, fighting on land, and, you know, having air, he's still managing to be neck and neck with Amygdala in terms of the air game. Tons of point defense turrets Utoshalas being constructed by Spectre Slave's commander, which does have T2. They might have a slight problem though, because yes, the terrain is highly unfavorable to the likes of Utoshalas, because they will just keep shooting terrain over and over again. Highly unfortunate indeed, but you know, at least they are built on the side of the cliff, which means they can actually shoot downwards for once, which is pretty nice. The commander of Alenia is quite powerful with both shield and Aeon double gun. Will be blasting those Utoshalas to pieces from afar. You will need way more of them to actually stand a fighting chance here, especially with this massive Aurora incursion. Alenia isn't letting the Utoshalas shoot his Auroras, instead he's letting his commander tank the damage. Very wise move, because now those Ilshavos and Utoshalas are nowhere near sufficient to repel so many Aurora tanks, so it looks like Spectre Slave will be forced to forfeit this position, and all of the reclaim could go to Alenia, which will boost his already massive economy. As we can see, yes, Alenia is the first in the game at 120 mass per second. Meanwhile, on the western flank, which is still keep paying attention to that, the engineers of Wi-Fi are PD creeping as the commander is walking forward with both gun and nano. The commander of Tron has left the premises. In fact, I'm not entirely sure where it went. Looks like it went all the way back to base. And also, crucially, Tron has been forced out of the naval game completely, because both destroyers and cruisers just came in and wrecked his entire naval production. To be fair, he wasn't that keen on producing too many naval units, so that wasn't that big of a loss, that big of an investment. But it might still come back to bite them because, you know, those UEF cruisers, they could put some serious hurt on your economy and your production if left unchecked. Massive Tech 2 land push coming out from Wi-Fi. He is faced with two commanders here, both White Owl and Nikerochek are working with a gun. And there's so many pillars and monkeys and even mobile shields versus pretty much zero Tech 2 land units from Nikerochek. It looks like Wi-Fi is trying to finish off White Owl. He is getting stuck on some engineers as well as blaze tanks, so he might be a little bit unsuccessful with that. Oh, he chooses to explode right next to Nikerochek. I think what he wanted to do was to kill them both, both White Owl and Nikerochek at the same time. Unfortunately for him, only Nikerochek was the one that died. White Owl barely lived. It feels like he probably didn't even get hit by the explosion, so it would have been absolutely worth it if Wi-Fi actually managed to destroy both of them with the comm explosion, but seems like it wasn't quite the case. It should be noted though that while Tron has completely given up on the naval game, he is now producing Tech 3 Air of his own, so in that sense it seems like Team 2 is kind of leading right now, because they've got both Tron and White Owl working on the air, while Amygdala is the only one for Team 2 currently working on that. It looks like some artillery pieces of Abandoned somehow made it all the way to yes, to Limesy's main base. It looks like, yeah, it was probably a transport drop, but no, they were shut down relatively quickly. They did manage to destroy at least one T2 mass extractor, which is a bit of a big loss, but it looks like Limesy is fine for now. And yes, he is producing his own ASF as well, so there's our first major air engagement at Tech 3. It is really hard to say who is getting the better end of this engagement, because there are 4 players controlling fighters here. It looks like, yeah, they're basically going neck and neck, but now with so many more fighters from White Owl arriving, it looks like Team 1 does come out on top on this one engagement. Of course, it doesn't decide anything, because, you know, they've barely got any. They've got like 5 fighters at most right now, so no big deal. Limesy and Amygdala both wisely retreat from the field in order to preserve their numbers and keep building those up. And yes, like I said, you can already see the cruisers pounding the forward positions of, well, formerly Nikerochek, but now belonging to White Owl. Yeah, of course, focusing the massive structures first. Those aren't very valuable, they're only Tech 1, but still, very soon the factories will follow suit unless the cruisers retreat. It looks like at this point, Abandoned is trying to build up Tech 1 Navy for now. And yes, currently upgrading to Tech 2 as we speak. Not entirely sure if that's going to help or not. But yes, Amygdala is pointing out that the enemy has 2 guys on Tech 3 Air, but that's not, you know, nothing to worry about, because so are his teammates, including himself, of course. And here we go. It looks like the Team 1 has found another possible solution to the naval problem they're having. Alenia is now sending a ton of blaze tanks across the lake in order to engage the opposing cruisers. They will be met with frigates and destroyers, which, you know, while blazes might be more cost-effective in terms of DPS, the frigates are definitely more cost-effective in terms of health. So it's a bit of an even matchup, and coupled with a proper kiting from destroyers, you know, you can destroy a whole bunch of these blaze tanks before they manage to do any serious damage. It looks like the position that was, you know, where the big explosion happened, let's call it that, the big explosion site, is now being overrun by troops formerly belonging to Wi-Fi but now being controlled by Limesy. For some reason, White Owl is being forced to retreat. I guess, yeah, he really doesn't want to lose his commander now. I feel like there are more units for White Owl though. So many blaze tanks should be able to close the distance and finish those monkeys, reducing the strength of the invading force immensely. Yeah, so the cruisers out from H-Master, of course, also give Team 2 the prerogative of flying over them. Because, you know, the enemy team really won't want to send those fighters flying over the opposing cruisers, and more cruisers keep popping up every second. Now, the Navy has been forced to retreat by the impending massive force of Blaze and Auroras now. But it looks like they won't be forced back for long, as the tanks themselves are now retreating. All this time, by the way, Alenia is already sitting at 260 something mass per second, with only Limesy being a match for him. But remember, Limesy is busy producing air, while Alenia is only working on land, and look how much glorious land he's got. Some help from the destroyers now, out from Abandoned, finally helping. It's not entirely clear if it's going to be enough though, because there are now so many cruisers, and I'm sure, yeah, he's going to add a few more destroyers to the mix. Of course, there is an advantage for Seraphim destroyers who can go underwater, and then they will be impervious to most forms of UEF weaponry, because, as everybody knows, the torpedoes on those UEF destroyers really suck. They would have to switch to torpedo boats just to deal with underwater opposing destroyers. And yes, now the blaze tanks are just being picked off one by one by the opposing destroyers. That is something you really don't want to see. You want to move them one way or another, rather than just see them, you know, getting picked off like that. It looks like a counter push is about to happen here, so we might be able to witness a big fight. Yes, there we go. The shields are down for the UEF Navy. It looks like for the moment they are being forced to retreat. However, still the destroyer advantage is quite overwhelming. And it looks like, yeah, it's a little bit of a stalemate for now. An extremely, an extremely aggressive stalemate, but a stalemate nonetheless. The Seraphim destroyers are, well, yes, sailing a little bit too far forward and getting picked off in turn. That makes matters even worse. And for now, it looks like the blaze tanks are just completely ignoring... No, I was gonna say they're ignoring the opposing navy and trying to go for the HQ, but that is not true. They're still pursuing the naval forces. Instead, more engineers being sent out by Amygdala to reclaim all that is left behind on the western front. On the eastern front, meanwhile, it looks like... Yeah, it looks like Spectre Slave is really not doing well for himself at just 90 mass per second versus almost 300, almost 400 by Alenia at this point. And it should be noted, yes, that Alenia has now taken over, or overtaken Limesy in a big way, almost 50 mass ahead already. Because, you know, while the mass extractors on the sort of no man's land to the east of Alenia's base have been, you know, capped and are now being upgraded to Tech 3 as well, on the opposite side we can see that they are only now starting to get capped with the storage units, so it's going to be quite some time before Limesy catches up, if at all. However, this could get solved by the fact that Limesy is working on a nuke as we speak. So yes, there is a stealth field, you know, protecting the location of his commander, as well as the engineers. It looks like he doesn't have quite enough energy to support everything, which is fair enough, you know, upgrading RAS and building a nuke at the same time. Somehow he has resources for everything. But, yeah, it remains to be seen for how long that's gonna go. In the meantime, on the opposite side of the world, we've got ourselves our first experimental being produced. This is the side, of course, the majestic donut of the Aeon, being built by quite a lot of build power of both Seraphim and Aeon variety. So, while White Owl doesn't have any hives to help him, instead he's working with so many engineers that it really doesn't really matter. He's also got nano repair on his commander, just to be safe, and is being followed around by an Aeon shield at all times. Yes, in the middle it looks like the Navy is actually pushing back against the Auroras and Blazes now. The commander of Alenia for some reason is standing right next to them. Looks like he's upgrading Tech 3. And now the nuke is out. Let's see where it's going. It looks like for Team 1 we've got at least 2 SMD units. This one isn't loaded, nor is the one on the far north. So yes, they're realizing they're in big trouble and walking as far away as they possibly can. The nuke does clip the base of Abandoned, immediately reducing his economy quite heavily, because, you know, there was a whole bunch of mass extractors. He also no longer has a Tech 3 land headquarters in his possession, which I am not entirely sure what he was doing with that. Guess he was mostly ecoing. But there we go, the donut completes for White Owl. Let's see how much damage that can do in retaliation. Yeah, so it should be noted that the donut has quite a bit of range on its anti-air cannon, so it can actually harass the opposing air forces from really far away. It looks like a big air fight is about to break out here. You need to be extremely careful not to lead your donut into too many opposing fighters, and yes, the fight is breaking out. The fighters are flying underneath the death beam of the donut, falling down in droves, and it looks like... Yes, it looks like Team 1 is coming very far ahead on top here. The donut has lost most of its health, but is now free to roam as long as it doesn't run into many ground or surface-based anti-air units. Yeah, already attack pings going out for the SAM launchers. You really don't want to get close to these. Of course, the donut will pick up some additional veterancy from shooting those fighters and scouts from afar, but it is flying too close to the sun, and the sun in this case is in the form of the enemy cruisers, and yes, together with the mobile flak and cougars from the ground force, it is enough to shoot down the donut, and crucially, it falls in hostile territory, where it will be guarded by a whole bunch of troops out from Limesy. In the meantime, though, Tron has his own problems to deal with, as Percival assault bots have made landfall. They just, they walked through the lake, essentially, and are now assaulting his main base. Although, with complete air control that Team 1 just got just now, and with so many Cerberus turrets, as well as, so many attack bombers flying overhead, those Percivals won't accomplish too much more. It looks like they haven't managed to bag a single mass extractor or power generator, which is... unfortunate. So it was a good idea, but did not pay off in the end. Alenia, meanwhile, on the eastern side, has finished his own donut. Keep in mind, though, Alenia isn't the air player, so he has no fighters to support him, to support the donut. Will need help from either Tron or White Owl in order to protect the majestic Tsar. The Navy of Abandon has been wiped out, unsurprisingly, by the overwhelming naval presence from H-Master. I think H-Master, has been working mostly on the Navy the whole game. Does have some Tech 3 air. He's probably going to give that over to either Limesy or Amygdala. The donut is advancing, eyeing the main base of Spectre Slave once again. Poor Spectre Slave has the lowest income of anybody in the game, and is still getting harassed by an overwhelming force from Alenia the whole time. And meanwhile, it looks like the fighters, the fighters from Tron are flying closer and closer towards the donut, so... Team 2's air needs to be careful, because if they fly in carelessly, they could very easily get wiped out once more. A second nuke is going out. Let's see exactly where that is headed. It looks like, based on its trajectory, it's headed once again for the base of Abandoned. Except this time he isn't moving at all. He was rebuilding, his naval, his land force. Now he's working with a Tech 3 naval, land headquarters, but looks like all of that is going to be for naught, because there we go. The second nuke from Limesy clips Abandoned, knocks him out of the game, and now all of his economy is transferred to White Owl. So 73,000 mass killed by the nuke launcher in total, paying off, basically like, what is it, five-fold at this point. I want to say five-fold. The donut is still roaming freely, because the opposing fighters are too afraid to approach it, getting some free experience by shooting down those fighters that are sitting on the ground for some reason. A second donut comes out from Alenia. And another one, it looks like, if that wasn't a unit built by him, it was instead transferred to him from White Owl. It's an Awasa bomber, except this time, Alenia is immediately like, nope, I am getting that right back to you. Looks like the donut is engaging with the fighters of Limesy as well as Amygdala. The fighters get wiped out once more, the donut retreats, and a second donut flies in. Meanwhile, the Awasa on the opposite side keeps bombarding the positions of Limesy with all of its might. Very soon they will probably even take back the remainder of the donut wreckage, which at this point there is only 5,000 mass left, so not too much. But still, it's something. They could still go for that. The second donut is approaching the production facilities of H-Master. Now that is a serious problem, because if they lose that, the naval headquarters, they will be no longer able to produce cruisers or destroyers. This could be Team 1's comeback into the naval game. The donut moves on further. Looks like it wants to clear some more mass extractors and SAM launchers that are present nearby. Yes, there we go. Vaporizes one SAM launcher. Moves on with no regrets. It's about to gain veterancy, I think, as long as it cleans up this little base that Limesy was working with. T3 air production facilities, as well as a nuke defense, as well as a quantum gateway, about to get completely and totally vaporized by the power of the donut. Actually, scratch that, they aren't vaporized, they're just, reduced to rubble in this case. This is a massive mistake, however. It looks like, it's flying over a whole bunch of anti-air SAM launchers. Its health is rapidly dropping. Alenia realizes what's happening and tries to have the donut retreat. But now it's kind of trapped, because wherever it flies, it will run into more SAM launchers, so that's probably not something he would like to happen. He's just gonna stay here. Also, somehow the quantum gateway has survived, as have all of the air production facilities. That was a little bit of a mishap. Yeah, you gotta finish that HQ. The HQ is the important one. There you go. It is being attacked by more fighters as a massive fighter cloud comes out from White Owl, who has now built a second Awasa. White Owl is, well, not very far ahead of anyone. Actually, I was gonna say he's ahead of most players on Team 2. This isn't quite accurate, because he's a relatively even match with Amygdala. Whoops. Looks like the donut has dropped by the attacking fighters. I'm sure you saw that, because I, well, kinda did, but not really. The second donut has been sent in for some reason as well. I guess as a relief force for the first donut. That's not gonna work too well though, because that one has also been reduced to 8,000 health and will now fall very shortly to the incoming fighters. Yep, no chance for this one to retreat as well. The fighter cloud of White Owl is flying over the bases of the enemy, taking massive damage to its ranks as a third strategic launch comes out of Limesy's base. Let's see where that is headed. Looks like it's headed northeast. Yes, Alenia needs to be a little bit careful because his commander is in the area. We'll see if that actually hits him or not. Meanwhile, in the middle, H-Master, despite being deprived of his Tech 2 naval headquarters and not having rebuilt that yet, still managing to maintain naval dominance, the nuke destroys a bunch of what looks like, just infrastructure, some production facilities, as well as a few power generators. It looks like Alenia lost his Tech 3 naval headquarters there because, all of his other factories are now just producing engineers. A real shame indeed. It looks like the Awasa will keep trying to drop bombs on the base of Spectre Slave. Poor Spectre Slave once again getting demolished for his trouble despite struggling the whole game. The Awasa does have one rank of veterans. He will probably gain more in a second as long as it's controlled properly. H-Master is asking, what's the plan, Maver? And it looks like the plan is just that, because Limesy has now started a construction of the Maver. Oh my goodness, it's already about 10% done. Actually, I don't have to guesstimate, can just look at the commanders. 13% done. So, that kind of puts Team 1 on a timer. Of course, they have been able to score local victories here and there with their donuts and their Awasas. But, the progress hasn't been very substantial, and the middle is still being maintained by Team 2. And it looks like the donut, I was convinced that the donut would be enough to deter the opposing navy, but they've got so many cruisers that somehow the donut is still not enough and is forced to retreat. Now, if it attacks together with the blaze tanks, that might be slightly more beneficial, because, they are controlled by one and the same player, after all. Yes, it looks like you need to send the blazes first, and then send the donut, from the side, where it won't get hit by too many cruisers, because there is still a mighty amount of cruisers in the area, 11 to be exact. And they have no targets to shoot at besides the donuts, so yes, it's once again forced to retreat. It looks like the naval stalemate continues. Except it is two Team 2s advantage. So yes, what is Team 1's answer to the Maver going to be? Looks like they are building a nuke launcher, or Tron is rather. On the eastern side, Alenia has already completed an emissary, Tech 3 artillery installation. It is just now raising its cannon, so we basically just witnessed its birth. It will now start firing at something. Cannot tell if I don't look at Alenia personally. It's firing at the main base of Limesy, as suggested by someone else, because yeah, there is an anti-nuke, and if you destroy those anti-nukes you can nuke the place and destroy the Maver, which I'm pretty sure they are aware of the Maver. Yeah, they do see it. It has been spotted somehow. We'll see if one artillery piece isn't enough to penetrate, because usually it isn't. Although, to be fair to Alenia, he is already working on yet another artillery piece, so two of them might have slightly better luck, but we shall see yet. H-Master is still only producing frigates, but still managing to hold that pond. Having an absolute chokehold, or death grip I should say, on this pond, not letting go of it at all costs. Very admirable. And you know, he's also realized that he's pretty safe down here, so he is actually hiding his commander in the pond, because he feels like nobody will ever attempt to figure, you know, nobody will suspect that the commander would be there. Another strategic launch detected, this time though from Tron. His nuke launcher is launching its first missile. It is directed towards the main base of Spectre Slave. Spectre, you gotta run. Actually, I'm pretty sure his commander has already run away, all the way towards the corner. But yes, this nuke is going to land because there is nothing stopping it. Let's see. So Spectre is currently working with 124 mass per second, and when the nuke lands, whoops, there we go. When the nuke lands, it's reduced to a measly 28. Oh no, poor Spectre Slave. Absolutely no respite the whole game. Having to face an opponent who has triple your eco, and then getting nuked and donated and awasad and all kinds of other horrible things. Speaking of awasas, how many have we got right now? Looks like for now White Owl is only working with just one, because he's actually given the other one over to a Tron, who manages to completely waste the shot and get the Awasa shot down. Well, you know what? At the very least, the Awasa has landed off screen, so it cannot be reclaimed anymore. The donut that was fighting against the Navy of H-Master has now been shot down as well. The wreckage is now being destroyed by the cruisers. Oh man, those cruisers mean serious business. Fighting back against a donut like that alone. Two more Awasas have been given over to Tron from White Owl. Well, let's see if it actually lands, but in the meantime, the artillery, oh no, the artillery is damaging the base of Limesy, so they can't see Limesy's commander because he's working with a cloak, which was, you know, a little bit of a rash choice, you might say, because, you know, he had to get rid of the resource allocation system to get rid of that. A nuke being launched from Tron's base towards the main building facilities where the Maver is located. However, they aren't aware that there is yet another strategic missile defense unit that just charged its first missile. Oh, but oh no! The missile, oh no, the missile defense unit gets destroyed! Oh god! Yes, the two artillery pieces from Alenia are completely dismantling the base of Limesy on their own. The Maver is, what is it, 82% complete, but now there is nothing protecting that from the nuke, and the nuke goes up! Oh! Destroys Limesy's commander, as well as the Maver, as well as all of his infrastructure. And now Team 2 are left to fend for themselves without their highest eco player. Ooh. All that hurt. H-Master is immediately complaining about Limesy preferring a Maver over a normal RT. Well, to be fair, it almost succeeded, you know. Maybe if more members of Team 2 worked together on that Maver, they could have done, you know, could have finished it slightly faster and could have done some real damage, but now the base of Amygdala is the next target of Alenia's artillery. It looks like, yeah, they aren't even bringing the Awasas here, it's just the artillery blasting away. Oh, what happened? I think you just pretty much control K's out of the game. Amygdala realizes that, you know, there is nothing else to do here. And the final artillery shells will, it seems like they will finish off his base. Because once again, you know, whenever Aeon artillery hits something, it does some serious damages. The highest damage artillery of all, or Tech 3 artillery installation of all. And now it looks like the commander of Spectre Slave is under fire, and H-Master control case out of the game. So it looks like at this point the game is completely over. Yep, Spectre Slave control case, and he control case so hard, he destroys everything that Team 1 and Team 2 has owned. Oh my goodness. The game couldn't handle that, the game just desynced at the end after this horrible destruction. But yes, this is the end of the game, so a very nice early game action with a few commanders dying, and then a whole bunch of naval action because, you know, the pond was kind of important. Those cruisers were really annoying, but in the end, they failed to do any real damage, and Alenia, together with the Awases of White Owl, managed to clean up in the end, and the nuke from Tron was the final nail in the coffin. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this cast of Supreme Commander Forged Alliance Forever. Of course, being both played and watched using the Forged Alliance Forever client. And yeah, if you enjoy the content, make sure to like, subscribe, and maybe leave a comment down below with your feedback and all that other cool stuff. For now though, this is all I've got for you for today, so goodbye, take care everybody, and I hope to see you soon again on the battlefields of the future.